Welcome to Helicon West, and today we're honoring Tyler, of course. I want to thank the Logan Library for allowing us to be here, for hosting Helicon West. Thank you to Helicon West for letting us do this event. Before we get started, Star Cobra has a small announcement.
First, I want to say thanks to Josh and Jess for being here and organizing this and helping us to honor Tyler, because this has been in the works a while, and we're so happy that we could do this. So thank you all for being here, as Josh said. And Weston, will that pick up the sound okay, since we're not on a mic? Maybe we need to come closer with the mic and the video possibly. Yeah, I think that might be better, just because where we don't have a mic.
Yeah.
And you know, there's this wonderful thing that's happened in Logan. Logan has a city poet laureate, and it's going to go on forever. I was the first city poet laureate, and I just want Shannon to come up here. Come up here. But dang it, this is our new poet laureate.
So my name is Joshua McDermott. I was a good friend of Tyler's. I met him in Charles Waugh's class at Utah State. As you know, Tyler passed away in November of last year.
Josh, no, don't you start, then I will.
But he was a great poet, and we used to come read here a lot. So we put together this book for Tyler. They're $10 in the back. Jessica and I started a small press, and this is our first book we're publishing. So tonight we're going to have some different friends of Tyler's come up and read from the book. And after we do the Tyler event, then we'll have an open mic. I think to start, I'm going to read the introduction I wrote for the book. And the introduction is a lot about the broader poetry community that we had here amongst our small group of friends. This is around 2011 or 2012 or so. So I'll start reading that. And then maybe we'll have two readers come up. I'll announce the next two readers who will come read some of his poems. They'll sit down, I'll come up and announce the next two. So I'll read this, and then Star is going to read a poem she wrote for Tyler and a poem from the book. And then Jessica will come up and do a few readings, and then I'll come announce the next few readers. So this is from the introduction to the book. The book is called We're Dancing Like Planets Now. For the most part, it's poems, but then there's a few short stories Tyler wrote. And then there's a few pictures of his zine that he made. And then there's a few pictures of his really unique, beautiful handwriting that he would do in his moleskin notebooks of some of his poems. Tyler Esplin's poetic style is sure to be overlooked by the poetry establishment, self-assured in its sterile, politically correct, and aloof aesthetic. But to the self-assured gatekeepers of poetry and the supposed counterculture, I say, here is M. Tyler Esplin. Here is as sincere and honest a representation of the American subaltern of the early 21st century as will likely ever exist. Here is a young man, naked, bleeding, messianic, desperate, unheard. Tyler's work and the community his poetry was forged in was firmly subterranean. Tyler had no elitist pretenses. He didn't need them. He, like our group of friends, outcasts, artists, orphans, the refuse of 21st century capitalism, shunned by the intermountain establishment of, Charles Potts likes this part a lot, establishment of Mormon sycophants, macho rednecks, and Romney Republicans, was equally ignored and reviled by the so-called resistance, the liberal class of enlightened professors and professional artists from Salt Lake City, Denver, or Portland. Nonetheless, Utah State University offered our backwater region, as in many other regions like it, a reprieve from a utilitarian culture that has no use for art or feeling. It was in Charles Waugh's fiction writing class at Utah State University when I first met Tyler in 2010. Like many others, I was intimidated by his imposing size and bohemian demeanor, but that didn't last long. In our very first conversation, we discussed our mutual love of the beats. It was a rare thing to find poets in those days. It was rarer still to find one who shared the same desperate and romantic urgency as myself. In other words, we understood each other immediately. The university would remain an important, if tangential, part of our poetry lives. Jennifer Steiner, Star Colebrook, Shannon Baum, these women in particular transcended the university local-town divide to mentor and care, often with great maternal love, for lost sons such as Tyler and myself. Working class kids who are doing their best.
We love you, Josh.
Really, this time. Maybe we'll have Star Read. I'll come back and try this in a minute.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about this?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I'm going to make him talk about this because he's got a book too. And I've got my book, City of Poetry. And I'm going to read a poem out of City of Poetry. It's called Letter to a Friend, 4 months after suicide. Written for Joshua Lou McDermott in memory of Tyler Esplin, April 2019. Dear Joshua Lou, I was walking in a pasture when it turned to deep water, flooding, swirling, everywhere I turned. I grabbed onto the corner of a splintering barn and kicked my legs in the murky lagoon until they lifted free. And I was flying up at the end of a long streamer like his long hair, and I saw his eyes as kind and lost as they were before we lost him. And I almost thought he was back again, writing and reading with that soft voice, the one we never thought we could lose, and we haven't, not yet. I still hear it over the swirl and moan of the deep, deep water. Thank you for doing this. This is so beautiful. This is Tyler's poem, Out of America, a poem in 2 parts for Kay. Oh, we have to wait for Bacon to get in here. Hi, Bacon.
Howdy, howdy.
You get situated and I'm going to read this poem. All right, ready? Out of America by Tyler Esplin, a poem in 2 parts for Kay. You. I came out of America and into the arms of cross-country New Hampshire girl who's curled in bed sheets and an old lover's sweater, watching Boston and science out the windows of last train from Concord, existential college kid, real human blues, running for miles before dawn breaks and disrobe exhausted into naked, frail bedroom floor sleep. Put on the stereo, mixtape from high school boyfriend and cry into paisley print handkerchief. Me. You came out of America and into the arms of cross-country Utah boy, neck deep in cigarettes, haunted by gone fiance's scarf, watching Salt Lake and poetry disappear out desert train windows, melancholy junkie prophet, poet desolation blues, silent talking through the hours on life in glass cages, stripped naked, ashamed, beaten, drunk, broken, empty bed, lonely. Put on the stereo, her old favorite album, Sad Debonair Song, and weep to Bottle of Whiskey. Yes.
Okay, let me try this introduction.
Do it.
So
Got this.
I also have a book out. There's only a few copies back there, but you can also find it online. We also want to thank Charles Potts. He's a well-known beat poet. Came all the way down from Just thanks to everyone for being here. This is really great. So let me see. Tyler and myself, working class kids who were doing their best to make a go of a university education at a land-grant institution. Star's invention, the monthly uncensored poetry reading series Helicon West, was especially formative for us. It's also where we met one of the major mentors of our scene, the one and only Charles Potts. And it's where each month, stepping in quietly after smoking cigarettes in the cold, Tyler would read his poems, letters, and stories. Tyler's poetry is the raw outcome, wrung like sweat from a rag, of a life or death struggle. It is a poetry of survival. It was written because he had to write it. It is orgasmic. It is transgressive. It is tongue-in-cheek. The desperation, the crushing obscurity, the boredom, the provinciality of our existence as dropouts, bottom dwellers, descendants of poor Mormon farmers who tried to eke a living out of the horrors of American capitalism and manifest destiny that continues to color the bloodstained mountains of Idaho and Utah in the wake of the Great Recession, while we were simultaneously inundated with the vapidity of American culture via airwaves and internet connections. All of this is the subliminal tension animating Tyler's poems. Ignored, overlooked. These words do not do justice to the world's complete apathy towards the Logan, Utah poetry scene, that magical world of raging poetry parties that provided a sanctuary for a number of groundbreaking and painfully sincere artists and personalities the world may never get to know. People like Huppy, the rapper Kenny J, Heather Rogiers, Garrett Billings, Garrett Anderson, Garrett Fry, Madison Pilling, Lou Jean, Henry Easterling, Noah Smith, Jay Anderson, Jessica McDermott, Chris Baez, Tyler Kiefer, and so many others. The edgiest and hippest of urban artists from the nearest big cities might as well have been space aliens to us kids writing poems and reading them to each other in broken old houses. Drunk on boxed wine amid painfully lonely winters and alienating Mormon sensibilities. We weren't ignored by the art scene, by publishers, by influencers. We weren't even on their fucking radar. But that didn't matter. Only now am I able to begin appreciating how special our poetry scene was for those few brief years, from roughly 2011 to 2015. We demolished apartments and run-down Victorian houses, drinking cheap boxed wine and whiskey, smoking hash and reading poetry to each other late into the night, sometimes drawing crowds of upwards of 40 or 50 people, all crammed together speaking our truth. We assumed poetry communities like these also existed in places like New York, Chicago, or Paris, but we were wrong. Our provinciality and our total lack of money, academic sensibilities, and egos allowed for an authentic scene of young poets to flourish for a short while before we inevitably went our separate ways. The authenticity, sincerity, and painful earnestness of our scene is on full display here in Tyler's tortured and eloquent verse. If we were a congregation, Tyler was our sad and watchful shepherd, a record keeper, a participant, an outsider even when he was the quintessential insider of our poetry scene. And we all know this is true. Tyler was eternally unsure of himself, while also fully aware, though sometimes unsure if this too was a delusion of his own genius. At the end of a long night in our central reading spot, an old Victorian house some of our friends lived on the west side, Tyler stood up to read a 20-minute long poem that he'd been madly scribbling in the corner, never looking up for the entire night. And he wrote this poem for Lindsay Garvin. Where's Lindsay?
She's back there.
Lindsay.
That poem is in this book. Amazingly, a room full of drunk 20-year-olds hung on the edge of every word of the poem. As he read it, we collectively confronted the mystery, excitement, irony, and pain of life in what's become a legendary moment for those of us lucky enough to reminisce on those days. Tyler wrote because he had nothing else. He wrote because he had something to say and he knew he could say it beautifully. He wrote because he wanted to communicate to the void that he existed, that he loved, that he yearned, that he vomited, fucked. His work is a testament, if of nothing else, of this. Here was a young man who felt deeply and beautifully, so much so that he, in a moment of what we might call clarity between him and eternity, took his own life on November 29th, 2018, just days after his 27th birthday. He had a ticket to come visit me in Pittsburgh, booked for December 7th. In the days prior to his death, by all outward appearances, Tyler was on the up and up. He was walking daily in the foothills of the mountains. He was sober for the first time in years. He was slated to visit Pittsburgh, where I was excited to show him the bars and sights and possibilities of a life beyond the confines of Cache Valley. He had been tied up, legally speaking, in Utah for years, thanks to the fascist police state that still reigns there. But by the end of 2018, he had finally paid his fines, finished his probation, and completed his jail time. He seemed hopeful for the first time in a long time. Why then he took his own life that November remained a tragic mystery to all those who loved him. He undoubtedly had made peace with the idea that his poetry and his genius would be lost to the void, would wither in obscurity. In our audacity, we only hope that this book, a meager monument erected to Tyler against the expansive backdrop of time and pointless existence, can offer a beacon of hope and companionship to other lost, lonely, and alienated youth in Utah and America today. You are not alone in your desperation, or your awe, or your ecstasy, or your suffering, or your obscurity. Tyler gave voice to his truth and his passion and his existence. We hope his voice offers some comfort to fellow travelers, to the dropouts, the assembly line workers, the junkies, the pukers, the dreamers, the romantics, the hopeful, the hopeless, the youth who struggle in earnest, who vibrate and build lives and human connections amid the nightmare land that is America in the 21st century. Now we'll have Jessica will read a few poems, and then Lou Jean will read some.
Thanks everyone for coming out. First I'm going to read a poem called Empire. It's on page 49 of the book. So Tyler wrote this poem for me after he heard me read a poem at Helicon West.
Yeah.
And I was amazed he would even write a poem for me, so I'm going to read it to you. It's a beautiful poem. Caesar, I imagine digging you up and riffing through your pockets in search of Roman jade. But your bones are curled up next to a lover's, and you've decayed like a pharaoh whose teeth have been rotted by age and by lonely. And at night I see you weeping behind the balustrade and mumbling poems about your mistress under your breath. And I know I'm historically tactless and accurate, but I love you, and I want your empire cradled between my fingers. This next poem is probably one of my favorites in the whole text. It's on page 34. It's called 180. When I heard the learned astronomer, when the proofs, the figures were ranged in columns before me, when I was shown the charts and the diagrams to add, divide, and measure them, when I, sitting, heard the astronomer, where he lectured with much applause in the lecture room, how soon, unaccountable, I became tired and sick, till rising and gliding out, I wandered off by myself, in the mystical, moist night air, and from time to time, looked up in perfect silence at the stars.
Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Lou Jean. Those of you that don't know me, I wasn't really part of the Helicon West scene. I didn't go to Utah State. I was just... Tyler and I were soulmates, I guess, is all I would get to say about it. Like, the intensity and the craziness and everything. He was my bandmate, he was my best friend, he was my boyfriend for a while, and it's just, this is so amazing just to see this many people showed up for him. So I'm going to be reading, I've got two things. The titular poem, We're Dancing Like Planets Now, and then I also have a letter that he wrote to me that I didn't find until after Josh was putting the book together. And I feel like in classic punk rock, Lou and Tyler style, sorry if I yell. So we're dancing like planets now. Hey Lou, whose sling are you spinning these days? I met a deadbeat last week. He sympathized with writing being a miserable business and whiskey being a filthy delight. I miss your witchcraft. We just patched the Saturnalia parallax, and tonight I'll be howling at the full moon without you. In the endless afternoons, I'll find you burned like a martyr or a dirty saint. The crops will die of laughter, and the jester will vomit on the king. But think of all the people who are fucking right now. Yeah, the world is an ugly place, but there's always hurricanes. The mystics will leave their caves and scream for the sunlight with the voices of lepers. The arcade is drowning under the weight of its own sadness. Let the mountains burn down and see if I care.
Yeah.
So Tyler actually wrote this letter to me while he was in the Cache County prison, jail, whatever. It's even on like a inmate request and grievance form, and it certainly is a grievance. It's dated August 25th, 2012, so like good job on the timing, guys. Dear Mama Ghost, I've been locked up for 97 hours and 11 minutes as of right now. I watch TV about 16 hours a day and it's fucking boring. I just watched the same DiCaprio movie for like the third time. Jesus. I've been dreaming so strange at night. There's been a lot of violent sexuality, especially blood-based and teeth and faceless women with the most surreal of deformities. And I've had dreams of just sitting around and smoking cigarettes with you. I'm predicting a period of heavy isolation after I get out, going to a working life. Maybe I'm predicting dancing around in my old suits, going crazy in my room again. While I've been in here, I've thought a lot about something you wrote to me a few weeks ago, about making this world in our image. But why is it our responsibility to change everything? We're the only ones who benefit from it. Why not just leave the world to its own and disappear? We can kill the beast and hide forever. Don't you see? Death is only the beginning, darling. But you're the optimist of the two of us, which makes sense, I suppose. You're the carrying Cancer, and I'm the cold-blooded Scorpio. Everyone here asks me what I'm writing all the goddamn time. When I tell them the name of our band, they laugh. Meth the band, for those of you who aren't around. One kid literally couldn't believe I play as many instruments as I do. Fucking suckers! I'm too fragile for this place, honey. What's a fledgling little poet like me to do? I'm fucking insane in here, and no more Bukowskiing for it. 97 hours, 53 minutes. 70 hours and 7 minutes to go. Exo Sal motherfucking Jesus.
Yeah.
That was her. This says Leander on it. Yes, that's her. Well, that should clarify.
Now we're going to hear from Italia and then Jared Watson.
So I'm reading a prayer for Mama Ghost. Because Tyler was a big part of why me and Lou weren't friends, and is a big part of why we're such good friends.
I love you.
I love you. Hey Mama, I know you feel like things are falling apart, and your pharaoh has abandoned you, the house of guards is toppled, your eyes have taken on a new kind of darkness. But believe me, this is the birth of a new mythology. Jim feared Deadbolt, my gone, but now you got me. It's all Jesus, blue-eyed boy who sighs too often, but doesn't fuck around. He ain't much, but you're teaching him how to swim. And he'll get his sea legs just yet. By God, you wait and see. Baby, we're walking through the woods together, and you've still got miles to go. There's empty boxes with our names scrawled all over them. We've been watching demons try to crawl their way out of you. Just relax. Let them go. Don't be scared. I'll be holding your hand the whole way. We got light bulbs pointed at the stars. Can't you see? We're legends in the making. I've seen it in the cards, and I'm sure you have too. So roll us up another cigarette and let's go howl at the moon some more. Everything we know is just a massive, pretty, ugly, scary, beautiful rite of sadness and flowers. We're the new immortals. Whether we like it or not, we can be Skid Row royalty if we'll just let us. Break free. So let's give them hell, you know? From the only holy district to another, just remember, we're living in angels' days. Van Gogh was wrong. The sadness won't last forever. We can die and ruin ourselves so we can watch the new era open like blossoming lilac before our eyes. There's an ice age coming, Mama. We're watching the world freeze.
Sorry about that. My name's Jared. I met Tyler in 2011 through Shannon's class, poetry, and Tyler was one of the best writers I knew. And this poem kind of represents like his perfect stream of consciousness that I could listen to forever. This is all American, I think. Blue sky death of pharaohs and cowards and men with no teeth in sketchy public restrooms. The cryptozoologists are rearing their heads in their dreamland petting zoos, talking apocalypse and salvation, oceanic disturbance on a Friday winter afternoon, praying for answers blues. So take my hand in yours and walk into the rising tide with me, prying open lotus blossoms with crowbars in empty hotels. So leave the meadowlark in its den of courtyard roses, and it'll sing a little song of empty churches with the eternal Virgin plastered on the wall in stained glass windows. The dark basement absent days of winter are dissolving into sin-flesh garden fruit. When we tangle in floral sheets and we make gods of ourselves in the snow-blind December, in swampland apartments outside of town. And the way we ecstasy at midnight, when we gnash our fangs, hook and claw and anchor, growing farther from the rotten bark of weeping willows, crawling out of concrete. The mailbox hangs open early in the fog dawn morning, and it's quiet. Quiet until the addicts slam tetanus on dirty vomit couches and hide their eyes from harsh, crisp sunlight afternoon. Winter's bane. Winter's bane, I curse the cigarettes that lure me to the place where narrow veins end and Sunday shoes begin. But I suck dry the pockets of the witches with larkspur, growing like a peaceful crescendo in forests of sacred ambition. You, America, with such revelatory grace in your booty shorts and Marlboros and Betty Page eyes, behind closed doors and coffee in high school, nostalgias of jumping out windows, the broken ankles of whiskey days in spring, when the grapes hang lifeless on vines like shriveled old man testicles, drained of dignity and pride by the malevolent freeze. The dead are gathering to the beat of Woman King and of days. Nonsense and everything important has been done. There's no more film. The paintings melted to puddles of oil, and the songs bleaked to static of wasteland radio, lighting candles to the Mother of Christ and the harlot he talked into bedrooms. You Ritalin on rainy afternoons with closet ardor and laundry determination, But instead, you call me to your chamber, and we fuck like animals for days on end, ceaseless, immaculate like waves, great climbing tides that crest, where the sky rocks the cradle of the infant sun. And then, exhausted, we lay back into a patient still rest of skin and cotton and pillow talk, with the last leaf contouring to the quiet, forgiving ground, and it's trampled and shredded. And we drink beer in the morning and smoke pot till the moon is the only solace in the gargantuan night. There's no war when you're young and immortal, and life is both wicked and wonderful, harmonic and literate. Walking to the fence in the hour of rats and semaphore, waiting for redemption in the chapel of the wounded martyr, deadbeat drunk by candlelight tickling, tarot cards and guitar strings. And I am lost potential, a wonderkind with a habit of reckless self-destruction, and I can't understand how things can be so perfect when everything is in ruin. And the sea empties into fish bowls, and the diving bells speak in ancient aquatic tongues to sailors and saints, wrecked mosaics of little Mexican children under overpasses. But now tonight, it is December, and we are in bed together again. The moon is in Capricorn, and you're in luck because there's no parties to attend, and I know how elegant you like to be. And this next one's called Two of Cups. You came to me on a starry night in middle December, when the snow held footprints like a lover holds a locket. You offered me a song and a cigarette, and like a fool, I took them. In spring, we ate pills we found in the carpet and read poetry to each other at 2 a.m. in parking lots, flopping tarot cards on the dashboard and pondering their meanings. I've known you for 1,000 years. By summer, you drove me home, put drugs in my blood, kissed me goodbye, and said good luck. And I'd sit in my bedroom going crazy like I do, tickling the keys of my typewriter with my own unique type of hysteric madness. Now it's autumn, and we sing on street corners and sip coffee and read Salinger like nothing ever happened.
Now, Shannon, you read a few. So we'll hear from Shannon, and then I'll read a few of Tyler's poems.
This is amazing. It's amazing. This is what love is. Yeah, so thank you for doing this. It's just, can't be, there's nothing to compare it to. This is called the Papa Lou and Mama Ghost Blues #1.
What's up, kid?
Cold spiral, rewinding, I'm dying, artistic aspirations evaporating, I'm dated and jaded, evading annihilation, whiskey dreams, cynical lullabies, Christ on the dice, expired soliloquy, silly, pills are for thrill seekers, non-believers and serial thinkers, hanging gardens amid ardent apartments with slight, light, cold, Holocene dreams, mean butterfly wings and sequoia trees, lost in thought, dynamic synapses lapsing to happiness, misery spilling equally, secretively disappearing, and I'm stuck in it. And thanks for asking me to read as well. Angel Days #2. I think you and I were probably cut from the same tattered cloth and made to wear our own ugly skin. I'll write you poetry all goddamn day. And one day soon, I'm sure, we'll be dirty basement angels with orange flu dreams, half asleep, screaming, and wishing we were closer to death than we are. We got fists full of cigarettes and saluting to nothing at 5 in the morning, uncloaked and high, watching the sun rise from the car window as you were driving me home. XO for Ebs, Sal Jesus.
Lastly, before I read these few final poems, I really want to thank Tyler's family, Tina and Bart and Derek, for helping me put this book together, and for everyone who helped me track down Tyler's writings and put this all together. Oh, I also forgot to mention, proceeds from the book tonight are going to the Cache County Humane Society in Tyler's memory. This poem is the first poem in the book, page 7. It's called Island Number 1. It's 4 in the morning and it's raining hammers and nails. There's a man limping under the streetlights up to the temple. And I keep telling myself just one more cigarette until the box runs empty. Kind of blue crackles to life on the stereo. And I swear I could sit here till sunrise dreaming. This is one of my favorite of Tyler's poems. Page 111, it's called Terminus. It's this wicked whiskey symmetry and improper geometry followed a savior to hell through high water. I offered him a bottle of hollow and he called me a miracle. But I'm jaded and patient, and history's vicious misery, imagined so perfectly by ostracized dreamers lost in the prophecy. My words come in circles, they flee through the Holocene, back to manic Latin and plastic vernacular. It seems meaningless, screaming a heliosequence, mute and stupid, blind and brainless. When it rained for days, and its train wrecks, our last heroes only echo, in carved marble hard and homeless, an old stone immortal grown tired of poses. Erupting from ashtrays, plain and archaic, waking and praying for a day to come when fences become irrelevant. And motion is just lack of static. The ocean is potent and restless, and never ending in broken teeth and aimless envy. Its masquerade, its patriarchy, blaming the artist for holding the mirror to the faces of those who bloomed in the ruin. And it hurts to burn pages of poetry, but it's freeing. The ache and the yearning to rebirth unearthly the empty space wasteland. A cigarette illuminates the shape of my lungs, painful and hungry and ancient. The organ's melody is yelling heavenly obscenities, martyr and whore and devil may care. I'm destroying the void in a maelstrom of noise, such righteous violence, the silence is justified by the riots. Then the world goes quiet, mortified by the war, existing in the nightmares of street preacher fearmongers. And the crows reach a crescendo, screeching to a metronome of sin and bones and stereos. Time twists the minutes. Its business is finished. That's all for the main portion of reading from Tyler's book. We'll be around after, but right now we can go. I think we just have a few open mic readers. Jessica's going to host the open mic portion.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
So like Josh said, we still have Tyler's book for sale in the back, and all proceeds will go to the Cache County Humane Society. We also have coffee over here. And if anyone else still wants to sign up for the open mic, you can come talk to me up here. So I'm just going to read the first 3, and then after they all go, I'll need to read the next 3. So as usual, and as Star says, you have 7 minutes, and then you're clapped off the stage. So just try to keep your time. And it's also uncensored, so speak and read as you wish. First we have Luke Lemon, then Britt Allen, and then Joshua McDermott.
We're going to start off with an unfinished poem that's also untitled. Bodies interact easier than minds. The touch of a man more sure than his actions. In the mind, there's always more. What's behind what's revealed? The body is finite, distinct ends. Nothing more behind interlocking fingers. Nothing does this hand mean more. The words always leave more behind. What does it mean? Why do they do it? But a hand striking face, it's simple, nothing behind it, nothing more to worry about. I sometimes wish I could be two bodies, giving myself the touch my mind craves without having to hurt someone. Sometimes I'm foul in the head, get standoffish and short. I want to separate myself from everyone. No one talk to me. But I still want human contact. It feels unreasonable. Love me, but only in the way I want. Or maybe selfish. I often feel too selfish. How can I know I care about someone? And this next one is called Machines Are Screaming Through My Window. They come in the dark, dripping with asphalt and rock. They growl low, stalk the street. Wheels whine and shriek. They flash yellow light, crimson pulsing around their black metal. Their howls, the horrible howls of pistons and gears, break my dreams. Growing engines spew toxic clouds. They skulk in lines, prowling back and forth between the trees up and down the streets. Burning pitch seeps into my room, smoke and exhaust and tar choking out the cool air. They replace the night, drown all sound, smother the stars in their thick black mist. I'm going to read another unfinished, untitled poem. My life fits in boxes. This one clothes, that one food, this one parents, that one friends. When my brother moved across the country, far away from anyone he knows, far away from unwanted parents, I bruised my fingers holding boxes and tables. They turned almost a grayish with the mixture of crimson and purple. They felt full with blood, flushed and hot, stuffy and stiff. When we stopped for a break, I ran my hands under cold water the entire time. My boyfriend can only take hot showers, scalding at times, nothing cooler. I found utility in cold showers during the hot summer when the sun beats down. My boyfriend doesn't like it, but I'm used to doing things I don't like. There's something thrilling about the discomfort, the chill when it first runs down your thighs, the involuntary gasp when it hits your back. Sometimes it's not cold enough. If you live long enough, you start to accumulate stuff. Stay in one place too long, you won't even notice it until you move. Decorations, tools, relationships, memories. I think I prefer to move often. Prevents you from carrying too much stuff. And the last one I'm going to read is called Somnolence. The sea swallows me whole, wrapping my skin in layers, watery films like protective shields. A hand as wet as the sea swallows me whole. Its cerulean jaws embracing me, clings to my back, arms wrapped around my chest, slowly dragging me down deeper until mottled light shuddering with the waves, suspended in blue, fades into the sea swallows me whole. Drowning is the calmest way to die, breathing into pain, lungs burning, then peace, drowsiness setting in, the mind slowly pulled from the body while floating to the pulse of the sea swallows me whole. I do not fight it leaking into my bed, the water slowly pooling in my sheets when it starts to lift me off my pillow, wrapping around my torso as I pray to the sea swallows me whole. Like the river that's done with running, I beg the sea to swallow me whole.
Yeah, I just want to repeat, Shannon, thanks for doing this, for putting this together. I fucking love Tyler. And I consider myself like the artist child of so many great brains in this room. And Tyler was one of them. He was a shepherd to me, absolutely. He brought me to my first Helicon West. I have a couple of poems, just a couple to read tonight that I've been working on over the summer. And in this first one, I feel so cowed. Okay, so my mentor is, the new poet laureate of Logan. It's fine. It's pretty cool. And so this is me. I just had the inspiration to kind of follow her vein one night, and I wrote a persona poem in the Little Red Riding Hood universe. I love you, Shannon. But also don't compare me to Shannon, okay? Stepfather is Wolf. When he prowled into the yard, flattened the baby's breath, the mother was fed up with kneading dough to live. A daughter to raise was a body too many. She never asked to be a widow, to sleep with a baby instead of a man, to watch a girl full of yeast rise as her own breasts gave to crumbs in her own hands. She let the wolf in quickly, flung door and apron wide for his thick animal scent. With his teeth inside her, she forgot she was a mother, became only flesh, only here between his molars, the entree instead of the dead baker's wife. At night, she'd rub his furred shoulders as he slept on her good goose pillows, run her fingers from the base of his snout to the wiry tip of his tail. Inside his mouth, she couldn't see the bruises on her daughter's thigh, the spot behind her daughter's ear that each morning glistened with canine spit. If her child hid the fresh bread of her body in thick red cloaks, if the wolf slipped out at night for prey, if he chewed her fast enough, the mother's mind went flower white. She had no heart to care. And this next poem has a working title. Right now it's called Example of Being Outside. And thanks to my summertime writing group, of which Sean is here tonight, you guys have helped me with these poems a lot. Okay. My family split up in the cornfield, God knows why. I called my stepfather Daddy, desperate to be his little sweetie, 11 years old, paired off with him in the maze. When the sun looked away and the rustling of empty husks filled us, Daddy stopped on the muddy path to unzip his black leather jacket, swallowed me into the dark musk of its dead skin. His arm went straight down the neck of my coat, shirt, wiry hairs tickling my collarbone and chin. Inside his jacket and his purple hand pinching and cupping my first bra, Daddy sunk me into him, his warm erection begging at my spine. My mom could have been an acre away, or doe still behind the next stalk. My body lifted with her husband's groans, fell with his sigh. Whatever he found reaching for my underwear almost made him weep. God knows why.
This is a poem I wrote for Tyler. It's called Roberto Clemente Bridge, which is a bridge in Pittsburgh, where I live. Roberto Clemente Bridge for Tyler Esplin. Man, I've been waiting for you since December 7th, and it's April now. Broke my head open, broken heart, some airport delay. Where the hell have you been? The trees shed their blossoms like fur, like tears. I heard you hung yourself in your parents' basement. Your mother told me she found you there, but I'm not sure if I believe her. You stupid fucker. I dreamt you came to see me last night at something like my wedding in a church house, like the one I grew up in. You can come next December if that's better for you. But for reals, you really gotta make it to the city. I've got paths alongside the river where the kids shoot heroin. I've got the young bartender who squeezes into her tight cotton pants. So much I've got to show you. So much to tell you, unintelligible things that will be ineffable until we sit down and write it out. I've got ideas that have been waiting up in the furry hills all winter. I've got a feeling I just can't get out of my mouth. The summer will be nice here, man. I wish you could see it, could have seen it. I've been waiting on you since December. Would have bought you a whiskey with a pickleback, man. I could have taught you something about how to stay alive when you don't feel like it. How to fight for something when you've got no energy left. Your broken thrift store shoes, man. I can't stop forgetting it's not December. The trees cry down on me. The city is spinning down the flooded river confluence like a bathroom drain, where a young man about our age fell from the Roberto Clemente Bridge, maybe jumped, showed up 3 months later, 2 towns down, clean and peaceful from the ice water, as if he'd died just yesterday.
Thanks to our readers. We have just 3 more. Ronald Jensen. Sorry, I can't read this one. Adrian. Thompson and Allison Finner.
Isabel, you went with the family to see the Lion King. Oh, what harvest it'd be. Oh, the good times would go on and on. Then tragedy struck, and now you're gone. Now it's hard for us. You're not here, so we can't help but shed a tear. Of all of us, Simmons and me, look forward to seeing you in eternity. From Kieran, I miss you, man. I'm walking the door and you're not on. Be able to start anymore. I miss you, man. The foot of the bed. You're not there. It's in this town instead. I miss you in these and other ways. You're a great dog. I wish you could stay.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Adrian Thompson, and I don't know any of you guys, but they put together this book, and I didn't know Tyler either, but I'm a part of the writing community up on campus, and I actually come from northern Utah. That's where I grew up. I grew up in the reddest state. Or the reddest corner of the reddest state, you know. Yeah, 446 people, 96% of which voted against Bush anyway. And for the last 4 years, I've sat behind a desk and examined the works, poems, broadsides, ephemera, and announcements, period announcements from like these amazing resplendent names that just call so much interest into them, such as Kerouac, Ginsberg, Corso, Ferlinghetti, McClure, Snyder, and Charles Potts.
Yeah.
So, I too have been working, writing a bunch of poems about my hometown over the summer. And I'm going to read what I see as the best one. I don't know if that's... so sorry about all that. I just thought I should share that like spirit melding that happened there in my head. So this is called Turkey Vulture, an instructional guide. Part 1, an introduction. Red head, black cape, white wisps, bumped nape, beak like a sharp thumb, fuzz stuck hairs, one single eye, emotion scarce. They leave late September, return mid-March. On the calendar, mom puts a mark, the day they roost across from park, 2 days later than last year. We walk to post office over sidewalks stained, owl spit. Below their row of wind-swayed bows, I find a black and breeze-blown quill. I pick it up, despite the ills it may contain, to study the clear, near-plastic tip and run fingers down dry velvet stiff. Along its edge, I leave a rift. Though grimy, stained, it is a gift. I look up where they glare by day. I give a wave. I turn away. Play hopscotch down along the spit. Part 2, The Guide. Beat out heavy wings at dawn, like harpies gone to roost in hell. A smell, you smell, a curving horn, a broken hoof, an anal tract no longer used, a flap of nose. The wind is proof. Follow it. Fly to base of mountain range, spy a bloated mound of red and black. Attack! Burst balloon belly, slurp eyeball jelly, strip the hide, crawl inside, tear udder in half, eat cow and calf, rask dripping blood beneath the heat, fly back at dusk to rest, repeat. On days it rains, alight on post, spread wings and pose in sun to dry. Die, choked on ball of hip, while still on branches brethren sit. Above post office glare and spit, each one connected, some of which, one eye, one beak, one head of red. The dead smell sweet as flower stench. The trench does not grow fuller, the chill grows ever colder. At night you roost on branches bare, half sit in pine across the street, against the dark, the rest in front of sunset glare. Compete for space, one flies across, one takes its place. Eat until your cheeks are purple, descend in ever shrinking circles, meet model head, one single eye. Soon now you'll fly to Mexico, where cows drop dead as soon as breathe, and sunsets never die.
I'm a stranger in the room tonight
Not to me.
who didn't know if I would find my voice, and so I don't have anything prepared to read, but I read with Tyler at his very first Helicon West when he was a freshman in high school in my creative writing class. I heard him first.
Such a hipster.
I heard him first. I didn't teach him a damn thing, but I heard him first. So I just wanted to give you a couple of little insights that maybe you don't know since you heard him last. I remember the day that Tyler asked me if he could use the F word in his poetry. I wonder what would have happened had I told him no.
You would have done it anyways.
I remember the day that I was supposed to award him the English department award for senior writer, and I couldn't because he was arrested for smoking pot in the parking lot at lunch. The principal asked me to choose someone else. I said no. He got his award. Detention or not.
Yeah.
I remember getting Facebook messages over the years. Hey, Allison, I'm writing again. Hey, Allison, I'm not. I remember when he asked me, can I please come back and read for your class? I want to make sure other kids know it's okay to be a poet. Absolutely, Tyler, but you cannot use the F. I heard him first. And I hear him every single day of my life. Thank you for giving him the audience that he needed and that he deserved.
Thank you, Allison, and the other readers. We'll just have one final reader, Jared Monson.
I miss coming to these things. Yeah. This one's for Tyler. It's called The Wandering Minstrel. Winding through the canyon, just you and I. That perfect fall afternoon after poetry class. How about we go for a drive? See where the road takes us, I say. Always down for the open road, you hop in. Flecks of auburn and crimson flashing by. In the Geo we cruise with Petty and Dylan and the rest of them. Like a couple of free-fallen spirits just running down a dream. Past first dam, second dam, third, and before long, the whole damn canyon. There will never be another voice like Bob Dylan, you say, or Tom Petty, I say, or Leonard Cohen. On crescendo of angels we rise over Bear Lake, shimmering in November, a rippling body of life, like descending on another world, another chance, untainted. Romping through Garden City like kids after school, grab a brisket bite at a quaint joint, just you and I. It's your birthday. Winding back the way we came, we get out at an overlook. Wind chill biting the ridge. Mid-afternoon Bob Ross clouds drifting over the lake. Casting shadows along the barren shore. Taking turns for the camera in sepia gold. Gazing into the unknown. Eye level with happy clouds. Wild mane and grizzly beard poking out from your hood. Grinning. The rims of your glasses glinting in the fading of the light. Magisterial on the mountain. Little Logan pulsates tonight without its wandering minstrel. Poncho clad, caught between worlds, a rebel with a cause armed with pen and paper over the heart, searching for meaning along jagged cracks and sidewalks and alleys and dim rooms, delivering stanzas on the corner of Cafe Ibis, in between coffee and cigarettes and whiskey dreams. Echoing through the halls of the library, like a bird on the wire, you tried in your own way to be free. Frigid Logan trembles tonight without its gentle sun, wandering and wondering without Tyler.
Thanks so much, everyone. And we're going to hear from Tyler's dad. Bart.
A couple of days ago, Josh asked me if either of us wanted to say anything. I says, no, I don't think so. But I do. I want to thank everyone of you for making my son who he was. Yeah, it starts at home, but you guys, every single one of you that knew him and threaded him, are a big, big part of who he was. Many of you we met a couple months ago. That night was a blur to me, as it was to Tina as well. But Tyler was a very kind and gentle person, and the stories that you all told us on that night, we didn't see that side of our son. We were the mean parents, and he didn't want to tell us anything. But the stories that you told us that night, just to this day, amaze me. of what a kind of gentle person he was. So again, I want to thank Josh and oh, that's horrible, for the amazing work that you've done in putting this book together. I'm sure there's many more works that we haven't found going through his stuff, because we, to be quite honest, we haven't really been through too much yet. But hopefully we will, and we can salvage the remaining works that we can find. So thanks again for coming tonight.
So that's the end of our event. Thanks, everyone. It was an honor celebrating Tyler and his genius and his writing with you all.